Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all. It is a pleasure to join you at the 5th African Union Commission Symposium on Special Economic Zones and the 7th Annual Meeting of the African Economic Zones Organization. There is no better time than now to speak about industrial value chain development. African heads of states have just discussed industrialization and economic diversification. An important model of industrial organization is the Special Economic Zones, SEZs. Africa needs to ramp up the development of industrial value chain development, especially through special economic zones. This meeting has adopted a theme, Engine for Resilience and Accelerator for Industrial Value Chain Development. Resilience is a key issue at this historical juncture for Africa. Recent shocks, including the COVID-19 pandemic, Russia's war in Ukraine, and the escalating climate change reminds us why Africa must unleash its own industrial potential to create resilience. As President Adesina has many times reiterated, Africa should not outsource its food security to the benevolence of others. Before Russia's war in Ukraine, African countries sourced 30 million metric tons of food imports from both countries. Rising food prices across Africa are enduring our already fragile food security situation. Food inflation stood at 23.34% in October in Nigeria. Africa today imports nearly 80 billion worth of food. This is not sustainable. We should produce our own food and export food in addition. The African Development Bank is the driving force behind the launch of the Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zones, also known by the acronym SAPZ. We consider these to be zones of prosperity. The SAPZ project is based on the conviction that the quickest and the best way for Africa to industrialize is by leveraging its comparative advantage. In other words, its agricultural production. Given that the continent's growing population needs to eat every day, the market is there. That is why in Nigeria, for example, the African Development Bank and our partners, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, the Islamic Development Bank, and are supporting the Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zones in every way we can. The Nigeria SAPZ, for example, will develop value chains for selected special crops, including maize, cassava, rice, soybean, cocoa, poultry, and livestock products. Several agribusinesses have already expressed a keen interest in locating in these zones. Nigeria's Bank of Industry is committed to financing companies investing in the zones, including small, medium-sized enterprises, commercial farmers, aggregators, input suppliers, primary processors, large processors, and agribusiness of all kinds. The special economic zones are a game changer that Africa needs right now. They will accelerate the process of industrialization, provided we implement the right policies and provide infrastructure. Africa's current infrastructure deficit is estimated at more than 150 billion a year. We need to bridge Africa's infrastructure deficit in sustainable and climate-resilient manner, especially during this period of limited fiscal capacity across the continent. SEZs have driven big Asian economies. In some countries, for example, close to 50% of their GDPs come from SEZs. They create jobs, and therefore, the African Development Bank has made the SAPZs its own flagship program. These SAPZs will take specific jobs to ensure job creation, particularly for young people. Currently, only 1 in every 10 jobs in Africa is in the formal sector, while the rest are jobs created in the informal sector. Only 20% of the 18 million young people that enter the job market in sub-Saharan Africa find jobs, find proper employment. Companies located in the special economic zones and special SAPZs will create jobs for young people, building secondary markets for entrepreneurship. They will also help skill youth and women through job skills training centers. The African Development Bank defines the Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zones as an integrated demand and supply agro-industrial ecosystem comprising production, processing, distribution, marketing with a continental and global reach aimed at transforming Africa's agriculture from an incremental existential mode into a business industrial complex. The SAPZ has its origin in the bank's Staple Crops Processing Zones initiative, which was launched as a flagship program under the Feed Africa strategy. The bank conceptualized the original SCPZ as an agro-based special development initiative advanced to agglomerate agro-processing activities within areas of high agricultural potential with the aim to boost productivity, to integrate production, processing, and marketing of selected commodities. The SAPZ, which can be applied to the full range of agricultural production activities, as recognized by the FAO, include crops, livestock, fisheries, and forestry. It is a unique spatial brand of the AfDB designed to achieve the twin objectives of agricultural transformation and rural development through agro-industrialization. The AfDB envisages that the location of the SAPZ in rural areas will provide special solutions to the challenges of uneven economic geography posed by rural underdevelopment and to stem rural-urban migration in African countries. African urbanization is occurring at the fastest but unsustainable rate in the whole world. Half of the continent's total population will be living in urban areas by 2030. This will pose heavy development challenges to the continent's already overburdened infrastructure, transportation, and housing in our cities. The location of SAPZs with attendant improved infrastructure, especially roads and public utility and employment opportunities associated with such zones, will provide a foundation for transforming rural poles of poverty to zones of prosperity. The location of agribusiness agglomeration in large geographic areas, as designed within the SAPZ model, can serve as a catalyst for the growth of secondary or intermediary towns and cities to modernize our rural landscape. We deliberately designed the SAPZ's model as a prioritized and appropriate industrial policy in the context of wider development process. As a variety of special economic zones, it stimulates the clustering of economic actors and factors, such as firms and farms within desired geographic space. It combines attributes of SEZs and the free trade zones, which include logistics, warehousing services, in addition to agricultural transformation centers deliberately located within farming communities. In development terms, an SAPZ as an industrial policy strategy is designed to fast-track structural transformation by modernizing farming techniques, technologies, and traditional practices of the agrarian sector. Agglomeration and clustering in space, which countries have deployed to great effect, enhances productivity and economic efficiency. The most important prerequisite as far as policy is concerned is for governments to enable special economic zones at the highest political level so that these zones provide the right regulatory environment. For private sector companies to invest, they need a stable and transparent business environment. There must be conducive policies in place for land tenure, for business registration, for importation of equipment, for duties on importation and exporting of goods. Each supply chain has different needs, and it is critical to listen to the private sector, even as we design the zones. It will be crucial to engage world-class developers that have the experience in developing special economic zones. We desire to have design, construction, and operation of special economic zones. These are all very complex. Therefore, it is important to work with the very best to ensure quality and speed in executions. Governments must have competitive and transparent procurement processes to choose the very best. These developers can bring experience and quality infrastructure. They can mobilize financing and in some cases even put equity into these zones. It's very important for government to start thinking outside of the box. The African Continental Free Trade Area will create the world's largest free trade area single market out of 55 countries and 1.4 billion people. The expected increase in demand will boost private sector development. African businesses will be able to rapidly enter new markets, benefit from labor mobility, and expand their customer base. Special economic zones can accelerate an inclusive and green industrialization and mobilize large volumes of investment. Alongside investments in transport infrastructure, we must invest in targeted industrial activity to harness the maximum impact for our people. For industrialization to happen, we must have ports, roads, energy at affordable costs. The African Development Bank is building transport infrastructure, linking countries in the region. There are projects like the Lagos-Abidjan Highway, the Kazungula Bridge linking Namibia, Botswana, and Zambia, the Mombasa to Nairobi to Addis Ababa Highway. Special economic zones are an important way to ensure that transport corridors are transformed into major economic corridors that integrate the continent's markets. To strengthen Africa's appeal as an investment destination for the world, we must be special economic zones to provide the business conducive policies, infrastructure, and security. Multinational companies are looking to tap into the growing African market of 1.4 billion people, which will double in the next 2 decades. And we need to be ready. Thank you very much.